of my words from those who don't like them, from those who may have different leanings or alignments. And then there's genuinely probably some that are confused. One comment that came up, somebody said very specifically, your order seems to indicate that a business could stay open if they could if they could protect the public health, they could stay open. But you also said citizens need to stay home unless they're shopping essentially. So they may not be there at that business shopping. So it could create this incongruous effect of a business being open. I took that as a retail business from this explanation. A business could be open but without any customers. And so my answer to that is that's exactly the impact that this order could have. And there's no problem with that because, quite frankly, if a business owner determines that he wants to keep his people employed and he has an essential service that he provides, and his employees that are working are doing so with social distancing, 6 feet apart, and if by chance nobody came in that day to shop or one customer came in to shop, is that not the best possible scenario? There is no public spread of COVID-19 going on, but in the scenario that I just gave, you've got 2 employees who still have a lifeline to a paycheck and groceries for their family. And if they can work safely, I would say that's exactly what they ought to do. They should work safely. If they can't, they shouldn't. If they can't work safe, they shouldn't work. They shouldn't be in operation and open. And again, going to the point of, I think the comment that was brought up earlier about shopping, and there are some things you might need to shop for that are essential, like maybe clothing could be an essential purchase for somebody, but it's a non-essential for somebody else. We really do expect grownups to figure that out for themselves. And let me give you just 2 examples here. One being, what about the spouse who now has to return to work from being a stay-at-home spouse because his or her spouse just got laid off and they need some new clothes to report to work tomorrow? We'd call that essential in that scenario. But the person who's going to shop because shopping is a form of entertainment or leisure for them, that would not be essential. I absolutely need every Collin County resident to make wise decisions. We, the Commissioners Court of this county or any other county in the state of Texas, we cannot dictate to you every scenario that you need to consider in your life. You've got to be on board with us, making common sense decisions for yourself and for our community. And I'll just give you another example close to home. My children asked my wife a few evenings ago, can we have some ice cream this evening after dinner? And she said, yes, if there's some in the freezer. And they said, there's not, can we go to the store to get some? And she said, absolutely not. That is not essential for us to go to the grocery store to get ice cream. Now, when we're there for eggs and milk and bread, we might pick some ice cream up. But we're not making a special trip for that because it's not essential. And I just so appreciate that she knew exactly what we intended here in Collin County. And I would say every family in this county knows that there's a difference between going to a hardware store to get essential supplies that they need right now in their life versus leisure shopping. And we count on them to make that distinction and keep themselves safe and everybody else safe. So I think it's a great point about confusion. We want to do everything we can to clear that up, but we don't want to allow people to take advantage of that and claim that there's confusion just because they may have other ulterior motives. Then the other point that you brought up about making sure that we can have the cities have room to work as well. Let me just clarify, or let me just repeat what I've said from the very beginning. From my first conference call with the mayors, to my second conference call, to my third conference call, every conference call with the mayors, to my press conference, I've been very consistent that it has always been my intention to allow the cities and the mayors the room to implement their own guidelines in addition to mine, just like the Governor Abbott has allowed counties to have room to implement our own guidelines. The governor has given us guidelines for the entire state of Texas, and I've laid out guidelines for the entire county, and some mayors have seen fit to put additional guidelines in place. And I'm not the arbiter of their guidelines. I'm not the arbiter of whether I agree with them or don't agree with them, but I've always said consistently that the statute provides for those different levels of executive authority, and I've done nothing to try to step in front of that. And so I think there's a point of clarity there for everybody as well.
Thank you, Judge.
I guess I'll go next.
I agree with Commissioner Fletcher. I would like to see the order tweaked a little bit. I think I did give you some of my input. I do think that I do have some concerns. I really would like to see some more clarity on essential. I completely agree. Going to Home Depot and buying a whole bunch of shrubs and trees and bushes and flowering plants is not essential. And they shouldn't be there. Although, yeah, when I went by the nursery in Home Depot yesterday, the place was packed. And I'm going, that's a problem. I am also extremely concerned. This virus attacks people in different ways. The primary people that are suffering the most from this are older people and people with underlying medical conditions. Anytime you're allowing the people that are asymptomatic to be mixing with the people who this disease, this virus, if they get it, it has a disproportionate impact upon them, their health. I'm concerned about it, and I'd like to see whatever we can do to try to incentivize, you want to call it an order, fine, and so that we do get businesses to maybe establish times to try to limit the ability of the group that is asymptomatic mixing with the group that is most susceptible to this virus and has a lot harder time fighting it off. And I'd like to see something like that. And then I guess, and that kind of falls into the last one, which is our retirement communities, our nursing homes. I mean, those are already pretty much shut down. But again, I feel very strongly that whatever we can do to reinforce the concept of no one should be going into those homes unless they have protector gear, that we take the